Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the War Games event, in which the Ward Rock is added to the game. So this week we also ended up getting the second campaign for Gems of War, so we will briefly be going over everything related to that as well, since that's of course the whole start of the new 10-week system. Anyways, let's get into the new troop that we have. It ends up coming in with a decent amount of red-brown arcanes. It is an epic, so you will be able to get these essentially for 200 glory each. So if you need to stock up, now would be an absolute great time to do so. Troop itself, pretty underwhelming. It's kind of made to be used for the event this week. Of course, the last time we had a Groshnok event for a World Lore event, it was pretty clunky, and this one is going to be similarly the case, and this just isn't going to be good enough to really use in most situations, unfortunately, especially since the bonus for the event is skulls and not cast damage. But it deals damage to the first enemy, boosted by their attack at a 3-to-1 boost ratio, so if they have something like 99 attack, it'll do 33 additional damage, and if I am enraged, it'll end up bleeding the first enemy twice. So overall, pretty underwhelming. It does end up getting that enrage a little bit easy, because it does get to get that enrage whenever you end up getting a kill. However, I really do not see any instance where this thing is going to be viable, so it's pretty much just going to be dead content, unfortunately. As far as extra stats, it is going to be pretty useful for the event this week. We do have 10% to all Groshnok, as well as 10% to all Orcs, and while I would not really advise to do it, you do get double the amount of trait stones in PvP if you do use the new troop, though I wouldn't really bother. The amount of rate at which you will be able to win just by using a good team will be so much quicker that you're pretty much just going to get double the trait stones by playing normally and not using that thing in your team. Next up, as far as event key drop table, event key drop table is very much worth skipping. It is Groshnok as far as the restriction for it, or what you end up getting, everything from the Groshnok Kingdom. Groshnok resides 2 of the 3 worst mythics in the entire game. The only reason I would open up event keys this week would be if you want to go and try to hit 5 or 10 stars, and you're just really close to it, and you just kind of want to close that gap, and you just need a little bit of upgrades. That's probably the only instance I would throw event keys. Otherwise, it is a really good week to skip, because pretty much everything here is useless. One thing to note, though, is there is one troop that is not obtainable from event keys from this kingdom, and that is Ogren. However, everything else that you see underneath this page is obtainable. So, yeah, if you need some of that for upgrades, you can do that. Otherwise, definitely a good time to consider skipping. As far as for the Ward Lore event, I got a little bit of a weird scoring system for this, but then again, when don't we ever? As far as the rooms that you want to do, Ward Rock is highest priority and ends up giving you 10 Orc Hearts, every single Orc Heart being worth 5 points. Krog the Dread ends up giving you 8, Fist of Zorn ends up giving you 7, So Zara ends up giving you 6, and all the way in dead last, and the one you mainly want to avoid, is the Drake Rider, which gives you 4. The pretty annoying thing about this is there are several with the same rarity where you do need to, it's kind of confusing because they actually give slightly different points. But yeah, it's Wardrock highest priority, then Krog the Dread, then Fist of Zorn, then Soul Zara, and then Drake Rider all the way at last. So do be mindful of that, as some of them do share a rarity, yet they do give a slightly different amount of points. Also, one other thing to keep note of is that the level does not matter, only that order that I just mentioned, of Wardrock, then Krog the Dread, then Fist of Zorn, then Soul Zara, and try to ignore the Drake Riders. That order is the only thing that matters. Their level does not, meaning you can take them at the lowest possible level as long as you take it based on that order. So do be mindful of that, since that'll make it quite a bit easier. As far as rewards, we don't have anything special, though we do have a new weapon in Soulforge, so you might want to end up picking that up. But anyways, as far as next thing, we have the events that we have going on throughout the week. So tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to be having Hall of Guardians. The cycle has recycled, so we are starting to head through all of those, which means we have a couple of pretty good weapons coming around the corner, including Life and Death, Withering Touch, if I'm not mistaken, and a few others coming pretty soon that will end up coming with some pretty viable weapons that are only available for a single day. The one for tomorrow is not that viable, so not really much to worry about there. But we do have a couple coming very, very soon. This Wednesday, we have the pet for the Sphinx. Nothing really too special there. It's one that's been out for a while, so if you happen to have not gotten it or just need a few more copies, you'll be able to do so then. This Thursday, we have Barbarian class, a pretty underwhelming class overall. However, most people probably don't have it all the way max, so if nothing else, you can claim a bit of free XP. This Friday, we do indeed have Bounty, and of course, we will be having another Groshnok troop from that Bounty. It's rather underwhelming, though, and won't be able to do too much. Most of your your bounty troops will just be the standard stuff, and you just kind of have to plop it in there because it gives you extra points. And this Saturday, we actually are getting something specifically. We are getting the Halloween pet for 2018. I'm actually using it right now. It is that voodoo doll that we have on our shoulder right over there. This was the 2018 Halloween pet, and if you didn't end up picking this up 2 years ago, or last year if it was available, I'm not sure, but it was from 2018. Not sure if it was available both years, but if you didn't end up picking this up yet, you'll be able to this Saturday, so do keep an eye out for that, and this is a standard pet event. Clear that out, and you'll be able to get that pet. Obviously cosmetic, as all the holiday related ones are, but definitely make sure to remember to pick that up. Speaking of things to pick up, we got some decent stuff in Soulforge this week. If you happen to have not gotten a High King Iron Gut from the event key drop table last week, luckily there's a High King Iron Gut again, so you have another opportunity to go get him. He is one of the best delve troops, if not the best delve troop in the entire game. Main reason for this is his devour chance is based on his attack, and not only do you have a way above average attack whenever you're doing delve due to all the stats that you get during a delve, but once you get a single Devourer, you are very much going to be over 100 attack, so you easily be able to get a 100% Devourer rate every single time you recast. It also has an extra turn on it, so if you just mana cycle with him, you'll be able to get it up very quick, and kind of to keep spamming him over and over and over again. Overall, absolutely a must-have for doing high-level delves if you want to get them done a bunch quicker. Obviously, you can't use it everywhere because he is, of course, only 3 colors, brown, blue, and yellow. However, in every single delve where he is applicable, he is extremely meta and is highly considered getting if you want to have a much easier time doing those delves. And yeah, make sure to go get that. Other than that, Cycrax is okay. Wouldn't really bother going too much out of your way for it, but it is a okay mythic if you are looking for another option. The rest's pretty bad. As far as legends are concerned, Tesla is one of the few legends where I would say it is worth going out of your way to get. It's a really good early game pickup. It's only 800 diamonds and it ends up dealing, it's kind of like a Rowan that upscales in a sense. It does true damage, but it's boost based on all armor in the battle. However, this does include the enemy's armor, so if they have a super high armor, you'll be able to do a pretty substantial amount of damage. Really great for upscaling, pretty good in various events, and pretty much anywhere where you can use red and blue, including delves and any kind of upscaling situation, is very strong and is definitely worth considering if you're lacking damage options early on in the game, as this thing is very good at fighting things much stronger than yourself. And other than that, I believe, not sure, but Bastos came out about 4 or 5 months ago, and due to how long the legendary cycle is, I believe this is actually the first time Basilisk is within the Soulforge. Not really too big of a pickup to really consider. However, I'm pretty sure this is the first time it's been around the Soulforge, so I guess you could maybe go for is basically just a stun alternative to Corvash. Nothing really too special. Comes into play ever so occasionally, but overall, probably not that worth it, especially compared to Tesla. Definitely get the Tesla, but is worth considering in that he might be, I believe, available for the first time in Soulforge. Other than that, don't forget to go get your Mace of Groshnock. Similarly to all the previous weeks, we basically be getting a new weapon every single week. Ever since that one update, that ended up bringing in a bunch of extra epic weapons. So if you still want to get those for completionist sake, make sure to do so. As far as actually good weapon, Earth's Fury is by far the most viable weapon I highly advise getting before the end of this week. Earth's Fury is basically Mang. However, it has a interesting effect in that it distributes the attack to everything on your team. Obviously, it does this at a bit of a less effect. Mang does a full 1-to-1 based on their armor, whereas this does 3-to-1, so essentially 1/3 that value. However, this has a few really good applicable uses. One is if you're doing an invasion for an invasion event, even though they're not as common these days, they still do occur, and when they do occur, you can end up using this, and you basically gain 1.6 times the value in a sense, because you're doing a 3-to-1 for the armor tier, but they do 5 times the damage. So you're going to be getting more than what a Mang would even be able to do when you use this in an invasion situation. It could also be good for things that have a boost ratio. For example, Iron Gut is occasionally used with it. I personally don't prefer using it that way. However, it is a build that can be done, and you could basically do that to do it outside of delves in order to get him to 100 attack pretty easily. It can also be used in pretty much any skull spam team where you don't necessarily want your hero to be in first slot, but you want something else that has a good skull effect in first slot in order to utilize the Earth's Fury to give it additional attack. So pretty good weapon and highly advised getting, as it's basically an alternative Mang. So yeah, definitely make sure to pick that up. Other than that, one thing that might actually be pretty useful for the event, actually just 2 different ones, the Bone Scraper and the Spiked Mace, based on the restriction of the event with the Groshnock restriction, and this one being boosted based on Orcs. They are both very good for the current event that's going on. They're not must-haves for it. However, if you are looking for a different option, just kind of switch things up and you have a lot of resources to maybe throw at it and don't have them them yet. It is worth considering, but overall, highest priority is by far Earth's Fury. And maybe even Doomed Codex. I'm not a huge fan of the codexes. However, they are somewhat decent, particularly in a Guild War situation. But I would say Earth's Fury, overall, highest priority. Make sure to go get it. Anyways, other than that, campaign. So, of course, it is now the start of the second campaign, Chapter 1. So this did end up starting as of today. We have this whole brand new campaign. Obviously, it has the whole task system. We'll be going over these every single Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we do every single night. If one of them rolls over in that we have to do it on Tuesday, because sometimes it tells you, like, go do dungeons or something 2 days in a row or something, then we finish them up on Tuesday. However, generally, we get a good majority of them done on Monday night and go over whatever rewards we end up getting. As far as this pass, I was considering potentially this time around getting the bigger pass, but I think I might just be sticking with the smaller one. I will still be getting it just so I can show all the content and everything for it, but overall, it's still pretty much the same junk. Still the same junk. There is one pretty noteworthy change that they did end up making, though. The biggest one is we do have these doomed books. These books of deeds. So these books of deeds are basically the equivalent of 50 deeds, and they are super ridiculously strong. A deed is worth, there's not an exact gem value to it, but about 100 to 150. Even if we take that low ball, let's say 100, there's actually 4 of them currently within this pass, 2 on the free side and 2 on the $10 paid side. Each of these, at minimum, is worth like 5,000 gems, so that is pretty absurd, because that's like 10,000 gems. I would highly advise, even if you are playing free-to-play now, it is actually worth going for, simply because these books, just because of how insanely heavy they are with how many deeds they effectively end up giving you. But yeah, there's 4 of them. The first one is at 350 for free. The second one is at 500, which costs $10. The next one is at 850 for free. And the other one is at 900 at the $10 pass thingy. And they did actually not buff up the super paid side, which I guess is technically a good thing. So if you do end up buying the super big one, which I don't really advise, the $25 one, just basically 2. But I wouldn't really advise going for the $25 one. Having those extra stats a little bit early make very little difference. Even if you're in a super competitive guild, it is just a few stats. Not that big of a difference. Overall, just doesn't seem worth the value to me. And that's almost a good thing, because we don't want it to get even more pay to win than it already is. But yeah, they didn't update like any of these rewards beyond the super paid side, so I guess that's almost a good thing in a sense. So I'm probably just going to stick with the normal side. It will make it so we can't show this a week early. However, every single option, the Mythic, including the 3 weapons, are pretty dead content. Like unless they're getting buffed between now and then. The way that Deathmark works, due to how it gets refreshed, I was making like a whole rant on this weekend too. But due to the fact that it doesn't have always has a 1-turn delay when you end up refreshing it, it is so ridiculously useless. Unless they're changing that between now and then, this Mythic is going to be completely dead. Its ability is also useless, so its final trait's the only thing that would be good. And due to how Deathmark currently interacts with the 1-turn delay every single time it gets refreshed, it just isn't worth using. And other than that, the only other main thing we really get is 3 weapons. However, all 3 of these weapons are pretty lackluster. I'm not sure if they're going to be crafted into a mythic weapon. It almost seems like they will. Like a surprise mythic weapon all the way at the end of the season, which, I don't know, we'll have to see how much that costs. I wouldn't mind that if it was just like 1,000,000 souls or something. Hopefully it's not power orbs, gosh. But it does look like that, because all 3 of them are called Nephrantia, or however you end up saying that. And they all use a different color, which almost makes it seem like they're almost like a Xenos in a sense, where you'll need to have those 3 weapons. It won't consume the 3 weapons, but it almost seems like you'll need the 3 weapons, and then they'll end up making like a big weapon. This hasn't been confirmed, but it kind of looks like it's going towards that direction. I'm not sure if I'll have more info on that a little bit later, but as it stands, it very much looks like that. But yeah, the only real big rewards are these new Books of Deeds. As far as what you use these for, they are used, of course, to upgrade kingdoms beyond level 15. I'm personally probably going to put into Golvania, because I farm here quite a bit lately for our Explorer. And it's basically just used to get to these higher levels. The most noteworthy one being the very first one, oddly enough, which ends up giving you a 10% extra myth stone. So if you're farming in a specific location for a long period of time, and you don't want to constantly keep chasing 20%, well, you can simply camp a single one for 10%, which is a pretty hefty bonus compared to, you know, just a standard amount. So if you would have originally got like 70 shards, well, you would have gotten 77. So I think the lowest amount is like 73 when you do a 12, so it's at minimum going to give you an 80 now rather than the lowest amount that would have originally been a 73. So obviously that doesn't make a huge difference, but obviously tokens are one of the most sought after kind of end game resources, and this can help out quite a bit with that. And even if you're on the free side, you only need 2 of them to go upgrade your first Purple Kingdom. And Golvania out of any of the Purple Kingdoms is actually the easiest one to do. Unfortunately, it is not a Magic Kingdom, despite purples being very heavy in Magic. However, I don't think anyone's going to be getting enough Books of Deeds anytime soon to go get that extra bonus. So I'm pretty sure it's perfectly fine to go use this for Golvania for now, because realistically, no one's getting 30 books anytime remotely soon in the current state of the game, unless they're going to do something to make it a lot easier. So it's perfectly fine putting 2 into Golvania if you want to farm that as a pretty easy kingdom. So worth considering. And even if you're doing the free side and not paying a single cent, you will still be able to do that as well. So that's pretty nice as well. Anyways, let's go and go over teams, and we'll call it a wrap. So all these teams, as per usual, will be in the comment section below, or I should say in the description, and you'll be able to go and copy-paste them all from there. As far as the teams, first one for the World Lore event is more of a skull spam team. Do keep in mind some of these are pretty clunky. The options that we have are restricted to Groshnok, so it doesn't really give us much options, as Groshnok is an extremely underwhelming kingdom. However, it does have one thing that's pretty good. Your weapon is restricted to Groshnok as well. However, it does have access to Mang. This is obviously a very good weapon that ends up dealing or ends up tearing away their armor and gives you attack relative to that. Combined with the fact that you get extra attack from the metals should make it so you one-shot everything after a single Mang pretty consistently. You might not even need it initially, the whole Mang kit. The Fist of Zorns are probably one of the best troops from this kingdom. It's one of the few that isn't useless. This is pretty useful in that it gets to convert all the yellows to skulls, and then you can end up gaining attack gain from that, immediately get a bunch of skulls, and kill them out with those skulls. Next team that we have here, which I feel like is overall going to be slightly better just because it diversifies itself a little bit more and uses every color, ends up using a Bone Scrapper weapon. This ends up creating a bunch of green and red. It also has a pretty noteworthy aspect if you have it upgraded, in which it will not only enrage yourself, but also create a Bone Storm, which is going to be pretty useful. You have the Fist of Zorn here still, because obviously you want to do skull pressure, given that the metals will end up giving you additional skull damage for this event. The Soul Czar here is mostly just a tap, and hey, free souls, why not? And Groshnok is mostly just here to get everything at 50% mana start that doesn't already have a mana start, as well as backup summon in case you need a way to not die. It's just kind of like a nice little crutch to make sure you get through the battle. And yeah, it's pretty much a rundown. And probably the team I'll be using overall. I might tweak it a little bit throughout the week, but it seems about what I'll be using for the most part, because you'll be able to get most of your additional damage. Like, I don't think you're going to need Mang or Earth's Fury too much. It's because the metals themselves are going to cover a good majority of your additional damage. But I'm not sure if you reach like the super late end, if you actually end up needing that extra little bit of buff. But if you're just doing like tier 3, tier 4, I'm pretty sure a team like this should be fine to go the entire way. But it really just depends how deep you're going to be going with the event. Anyways, other than that, for faction, we have, as I mentioned, the Hall of Guardians on Tuesday, tomorrow. For this, you can run anything that consists of yellow and brown, and obviously you can use any weapon. The first one here uses Stormcaller with triple finesse. This is pretty decent team to use in various delves, particularly delves that have high amount of yellows within them. Basically, finesse ends up giving 6 mana to all allies whenever you have a yellow storm in play, and you can basically just go and keep looping this over and over and over again. Or sorry, I believe it's any storm actually, not yellow storm. However, obviously yellow storm is pretty beneficial because it feeds into it, and you normally use yellow storm because that's the same class. Ends up synergizing into this. As far as weapon, you can use pretty much any weapon. Doom weapons work pretty good. Nimbus Bow also works pretty good. However, you could theoretically use any weapon in the game. It will work here. They give 6 mana to all your troops, so you generally want to be divisible by about 6 or so if you can. So anything like 12 to 18 tends to be a good weapon to use, anything within that mana range. And obviously that's within that mana range, and so is the Doom weapons at exactly 18, which is perfectly divisible by 6. So anything within that 12 to 18 range, or that's a good weapon, is basically what you'd want to use there. Pretty flexible as far as options. And other than that, for the earlier battles, and probably what I'll be using for most of the earlier faction, or probably all of it, is just a variant of a Guard's Avatar Quick Kill. Works similar to a Romaine Quick Kill when you can't use Romaine. Basic same premise. You just give it a half mana start. You then go get its mana very quickly. You'll have Enchant, so Harpy Mage is basically like a second turn in power. You get a bunch of mana, you feed it, you cast, you win. If you really want to, you could go Urskea Shield. However, I feel like it's better to not block it and just go for better mana accumulation. And, just keep looping your mana. Cast Guard's Avatar if you need to clean up. Just take a skull or cast them again and should be good to go. Other than that, pure faction. Pure faction is a Silent Sentinel, Ethereal Sentry, and Double Gargoyle. I did this actually with no potion effects when we ended up doing it. Gosh, it took so many attempts. But we did actually do this team and got it done with no potion effects a little while back, several months ago. And it's definitely possible. With potion effects, it should be pretty easy. The biggest issue with it is the Gargoyle and second slot. The main way you want to deal with this is either kill their Silent Sentinel in the final battle very quickly, and then have your Silent Sentinel silence it by them taking a skull on you, or just spamming Gargoyle until you win, and just try killing out their Gargoyle with brute force. If you're running with potion effects, it's likely the way that you want to go around about it is use your Gargoyles, keep targeting the enemy Gargoyle, and just keep doing that until it's dead. And once you kill the enemy Gargoyle, you pretty much auto-win. It's not an auto-win technically, but it's so close to a win that you might as well call it an auto-win. The Gargoyle in that final battle is pretty much the entire threat as to why that faction is so hard in the first place. So if you get that killed, you pretty much won for the most part, as long as you don't let them take too many skulls. And other than that, this Thursday, we got Barbarian class events. You can use pretty similar teams to what you used on throughout the week for the event. However, given that if you're just doing the free battles for these, you could just run the full AoE weapon and kind of go down that route. And that's basically what I end up doing here, kind of focusing a bit more on the Black Manacle and using the Orc Veteran for cleanup, as well as Fist of Zorn for cleanup. And the Groshnok's kind of just there for backup. It's always good to have a resummon, because every single time you lose a troop in that game mode, you do lose 1 point, so it's worth considering to have a backup in case you need it. But overall, pretty straightforward, and if you really want to, you can just use exactly what you use for the World Lore event for the event on Thursday, since the only additional restriction is that you have to specifically use a Orc from Groshnok, whereas the World Lore event is simply just a Groshnok restriction. So they're very similar, given that almost entirely of Groshnok is Orc, so has a lot of overlap in that regard. But anyways, guys, that will wrap it up for this video. We'll be going over more stuff, of course, tonight. We'll be doing the entirety of all the campaign tasks and probably discussing the pass a little bit more. Overall, it does seem pretty lackluster this time. I almost feel like the rewards last time were a little bit better, but if nothing else, at least this time we do have those purple book deeds, which those alone are almost worth like the entire thing. They're just worth so much more value than almost everything else. So one other thing to probably mention, though, that I do actually want to mention now before we wrap up, because I did actually forget to mention it while we were going over the campaign. I will probably re-mention it tonight when we do our stream. However, if you're looking to get all this content, like all these weapons and stuff, and you are, of course, playing free-to-play, you end up getting them based on the following. It's the same as before, but I did want to go and read all these off. So, the Mythic itself will be available in chests 3 to 4 weeks after the campaign ends. So this will basically work in the sense that as soon as the campaign ends, about 1 month after the fact, it'll just be in the normal drop table. One thing to note about this is it will never at any point be the exclusive Mythic in a drop table. So for example, right now, you probably don't want to open your keys because the Mythic we got last Friday is still applicable today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday until Friday resets. So you probably don't want to open any of your keys that you're getting this week if you don't want to get that new Mythic. However, this Mythic that's going to be coming through the campaign, similar to last Mythic that came through the campaign, at no point will be actually the exclusive Mythic. So the chance of specifically getting it is very unlikely, and you'd only really viably get it by spending diamonds on it, which of course costs 4,000 diamonds. The weapons will all be available on the respective event. So basically what this means is, for example, this one is a Drifting Sands weapon. So the next Drifting Sands event that occurs after the campaign is ended will end up having this weapon available in the Soulforge, and similar to any of the other weapons. So if we go over to another weapon right over here, this one is from Sword's Edge. So the next Sword's Edge event that occurs not during this campaign will end up having this weapon. So basically the first time that they occur when it's not the campaign, you'll be able to simply get into Soulforge for the normal amount of resources. It's like 600 to 2 colors. Oh wait, never mind, they only use 1 color. I'm not sure exactly what their cost breakdown would come out to then, but it's about the same as any other legendary weapon would end up costing. Other than that, all the portraits, emojis, stuff like that, as usual with anything, comes about 3 months after the fact. So they're pretty irrelevant for the most part, obviously, normally. But if you are interested in them, similar to any other emote in the game and similar things, they come 3 months after the fact. And as far as the pet itself, there'll be a special event for it after the fact, and you'll be able to get it during that event. Keep in mind, to max it out, it would cost about 2,000 to 3,000 diamonds. Obviously, most cosmetic pets you don't really bother maxing. If you just simply want a copy of it, you'll easily be able to get it during that pet event when it happens. Keep in mind, we still haven't had any of this happen from the previous events, like all these 3-4 weeks or this event having or the pet thing. These will, of course, be happening at least several weeks after the fact, probably about a month or so. But yeah, we should hopefully be seeing those roll in from the previous campaign. So I have that to look forward to as well over the next couple weeks for anyone who's playing free to play, as you'll be able to get the first campaign rewards, of course, during the second campaign, technically, in the next couple weeks or so. So we do have that. But anyways, that's the breakdown as far as when all those will be coming in. So worth noting. And yeah, I should probably probably should have mentioned that earlier. But yes, this new useless mythic is still in the drop table. Do not open your Glory Gem Guild and VIP chest if you don't want this thing. Wait until at least Friday before you go open these, because gosh, that thing is useless. And unless you really want it for like a Dragon's Claw upgrade or something, I would not advise opening any of those 4 resources until Friday gets here, because gosh, are they bad. Or that mythic is bad. But anyways, guys, I will catch all of you later. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As I mentioned, as we stream every night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be covering all of the Chapter 1 tasks tonight, and going through any of them that we can end up going through. We're not really getting any unique rewards to go over, but we will go over and do this task if nothing else. And of course, mess with the Ward Lore event. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Best of luck with everything, and I will catch you guys all later. Goodbye, everyone.